This is what Lauren Boebert had to say about the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. on MLK Day. I'm going to start by saying that I don't fault Bobo for her ignorance and tone deafness the same way you don't fault a chicken for eating its own excrement. You can't blame an animal for having a brain the size of a peanut. And that applies to the chicken too, not a smart animal. But let's take Bobo to school, shall we? Equity is the principle that recognizes that not everybody starts from the same place, and we can only achieve true justice if we give everybody the tools they need to succeed. And Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. recognized that fact. He may have not called it social equity because that concept was coined in 1968, the year that the Reverend was killed. But make no mistake, because the Reverend Martin Luther King talked about social and economic equity on more than one occasion. He did so when he said that the majority of white Americans consider themselves committed to justice. They believe that American society is essentially hospitable to fair play, but unfortunately, this is just a fantasy of what he called self-deception and comfortable vanity. He did so when he talked about economic injustice, saying that the problems of racial and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power. And he did so when he talked about how society is concerned with fair, which means that everybody plays by the exact same rules instead of just. In fact, he said that the great stumbling block in true freedom is the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than he is to justice. The problem, Bobo, is that the rules you want everybody to follow are often created by those who have already won and are not concerned with the problems and obstacles faced by those who are trying to just even be in the race. Between 1776 and 1868, the year the 14th Amendment was ratified, people of color were considered less than people and almost things by people just like you, Bobo. And between 1868 and 1954, the year of the decision Brown v. Board of Education, the system worked to lawfully cheat people of color out of any opportunity possible. And throughout all this, it would take an additional 10 years for lawmakers at the federal level to provide any type of minimal protection for African Americans. And even then, 60 years after the Civil Rights Act, the system still looks for and find ways to cheat African Americans out of the most basic opportunities. Bobo, MLK may have not used the word equity, but he was certainly a champion of the concept that everybody needs to be given the tools they need to succeed. And another thing hasn't changed in America, Bobo. We still can count people like you among our citizens and federal representatives, people who are so hell-bent on exploiting their privilege that they are willing to rob the Reverend Martin Luther King of its work and its words in order to deprive African American citizens of any opportunity. And for that, we should all be ashamed.